I woke up this morning to find that Carl Benjamin, better known as Sargon of Akkad, had been deplatformed from Patreon. I was both surprised by this, as I recall he had been investigated in the past by them, and found to have done nothing wrong, and well, sadly, I was expecting this to happen at some point, just not so soon. For those of you who don't know about Sargon, he is a YouTuber with over 800,000 subscribers, a very polarizing figure to many, has been a longtime advocate for free speech, supporter of Gamergate as a consumer revolt, and specifically told people not to harass or contact folks like Brianna Wu and Anita Sarkeesian, as it fed their narrative and they had nothing to do with what Gamergate was about, has been stridently opposed to intersectional feminism, and despite arguing against the alt-right on many occasions, gets accused of being alt-right. The worst I can say about Sargon is that he can be a bit of a dick when making his point. But being a dick does not mean that a person should be deplatformed. Removing him from Patreon will cost him and his family a large portion of his income right before Christmas. As to why he was removed, according to Sargon, with what he had shared on Facebook, it was because he used racial and homophobic slurs as an insult in a conversation shared online. However, as an Anthony S. on Twitter noted, Patreon's terms of service specifically refer to content posted on Patreon. I have a feeling we will soon see those terms of service change and then be retroactively applied. Now, Sargon has used a racial slur to insult somebody. That person was a white supremacist, and it wasn't on Patreon. I'll leave it up to you to decide how bad it is to insult white supremacists. This is also a little shocking when you consider there are people on Patreon that are calling for violence who are not being removed. In the screenshot of a reply from Patreon that he shared, they said that they believe in freedom of speech, and then they banned a person for speech. Even if Sargon said something insulting, I would think that he didn't violate the limits of freedom of speech as held in the USA, the company where Patreon is based in. They aren't saying Sargon made any statements that would have been a violation of freedom of speech in the USA, and if you want to read more about that, I'll leave a link to the Wikipedia article on it below. Now, Sargon isn't the only person to have been removed from Patreon in recent days. A James Alsup was also removed around the same time, though I have to admit I don't know much about him. And a day ago, Milo Yiannopoulos was deplatformed from Patreon. On his Instagram page, Milo posted a screenshot of a statement from Patreon saying he was being banned because of his association with the Proud Boys, and that it violated community guidelines. Now, in what Milo posted, it even notes that he had disavowed the Proud Boys. On Twitter, Patreon even said it was because they do not allow for association or support of hate groups. It would seem that even disavowing and disassociating from groups are not enough for some, and they will damn you forever with any infraction. The issue with Milo is that Patreon does not allow for people on their platform to be associated with or part of hate groups. However, the Southern Poverty Law Center does call the Proud Boys a hate group, but they aren't a government organization. The FBI doesn't call the Proud Boys a hate group, something that Tim Pool covered in a video yesterday, and I'll leave a link to that below if you want to check it out. So by what metric is Patreon using to classify a group as a hate group? We don't know, and apparently disavowing a hate group isn't enough if you had been associated with them in the past. Why is Patreon doing this? We don't know, but it's just a signal of a larger problem. Silicon Valley has a monopoly problem. Most of our public discourse platforms online are controlled by a small group of companies with very similar ideologies. And the result of this is we also have a free speech problem. What I find really disturbing is how many people I see celebrating this because it is people they don't like being deplatformed, or they ignore it because they don't seem to understand the danger of a couple corporations controlling the discourse and narrative of discussions going on in the public sphere. We are witnessing the rise of a new Puritanism. Any deviation from acceptable ideology is slowly being suppressed and removed, and many are celebrating this deplatforming. What is frightening is that there is no redemption for the target of these Puritans. They want to see their enemies condemned, destroyed, and left in ruin forever. These far-left Puritans are attacking and deplatforming those that disagree with them, be they centrists, liberals, conservatives, even groups like gender-critical feminists. They are being silenced, and them and various content creators on what we can call new media rather than legacy media are going to be impacted by this, and it is overdue that they unite in common purpose to stop this censorship. It is destroying the marketplace of ideas and free discourse. If this assault continues, I fear the removal of dissenting and alternative voices from the public sphere is going to have dangerous and lasting repercussions. As in a DM, at the time when I was putting this video together, it had come out that a group was also trying to remove Sargon from PayPal. Think of that what you will. That is all I have to say for now. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this, please feel free to like, subscribe, and hit the little bell for notifications. If you really enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to my Patreon. Take care.